with that. Okay, continue.
Okay.
Okay.
And Vice Chair Taylor, if you'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Thank you. The regular meeting of the Parks and Rec Commission will be called to order May 6, 2021 at 6 p.m. via teleconference. Can you take the roll?
Absolutely. So we'll begin with Vice Chair Taylor.
Present.
Commissioner Firestone.
Here.
And Commissioner Itney.
Present.
Perfect. And Youth Commissioner Duenas is currently absent.
And Commissioner Firestone, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Oh, what's going on? What did I do here?
Oh, no, it's okay. It's just a flag.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Pledge allegiance. Flag. Under God, indivisible.
And one nation. I wasn't quite prepared for that one. Okay. Not have a desk right now, so have to sub with the pillow. Okay. And do we have any public comments that were submitted?
No public comments.
Okay, great. And would you like to share the police report?
Sure. So we'll go ahead and begin with the police report, and we'll begin with the skate park. So Chief Rivera noted for the skate park, service calls are down, which is most likely due to the extra police presence. There were 3 reports of graffiti, 2 which had an estimated damage value of $400. The third, the juvenile was detained and cited. Additionally, there was a report of 2 subjects drinking alcohol in the park. Those individuals were stopped and cited for drinking alcohol in the park. And lastly, there was a report of a juvenile detained and cited for the use of tobacco products. Over at Libby Park, Chief Rivera noted that deputies are conducting extra foot patrols when possible. He noted that there were 2 juveniles arrested on May 11th on suspicion of starting fires in the restrooms at Libby Park and Zirazodi. Furthermore, he noted that there was a report of graffiti, a report of someone chasing their daughter at the park. The deputies were able to make contact with that individual. However, there was no crime established. There's also a report of a disturbance call. An individual was shouting profanities and flipping tables. By the time that deputies arrived, that individual was gone. Now, in addition to that, deputies, while they were conducting a foot patrol, they made contact with a subject who was on parole and had an active warrant. That individual was taken into custody. And then there were 3 additional notes here for Libby Park. Following that is there was a report of a subject living in an RV. Deputies made contact with that individual. There's a report of 2 subjects drinking in the park, and a report of a 13-year-old being battered by 2 other juveniles. As for Zirazodi Park, Chief Rivera noted that calls for service at Zirazodi Park are very low. Other than the fire, as previously noted, there is a report of an aggressive dog running off its leash. And that is it for the police report.
I just want to interject that the calls for service being down, being associated with the extra patrol, are likely not accurate, because if you actually look at the times that the chief provided, they're not, they're at 12 at night, they're at 9:18 in the morning, 12:01 a.m. They're at times when our youth are not likely to be there. I think that the numbers being down are merely a coincidence, but have relatively little to do with the extra patrol reported on here as extra patrol or foot patrol. This report does not include when deputies were at the park during, say, 2 to 7, when we are experiencing the uptick of youth activity. And that's not reflected on here because those are by deputy choice and availability. So I just want to make sure that the commission isn't influenced one way or another based on those extra patrols and then calls for service being down.
Okay.
I think that, well, we can cover it under the next, I think it's on agenda when we can give a report on that kind of the collaboration with the Sheriff's Department. We can cover that later.
May I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
The report you're referring to is the same report that Luis has, but that isn't something that's part of our packet. So the two of you have that, but it's this, you guys have the same report?
It's an email that I have that
Okay.
is a summary basically, but it has the detailed times when the incidents, like I said, a deputy pulling up to Sarasota Park and writing reports, kind of like what we talked about at the last meeting. That isn't something that gets logged because that's just the officer pulling up to write reports. But he, based on, I think, conversations, I'm not sure if they were with Luis or with, you spoke with them, that we had at our last meeting, there was some follow-up regarding the park ambassador program and what we could do to deter some delinquent activity at those parks to encourage safe use, I guess I would call it. And he, he agrees that we have an issue, but that that they're not the babysitters. And that's how this report came about. It was just an email to provide to staff to summarize what's happened in the last 30 days.
I was just thinking it might be helpful to just email it to all of us.
Sure, I'd be more than happy to go ahead and
So
send
that
it
when we're
to-
having this
to the
discussion,
commission.
we'll all have the same information and be on the same page. Because I hear what you're saying, but I haven't seen it, so it's hard for me to get the full picture.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be more than happy to go ahead and forward that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And I think that if we could make a regular practice out of that, that would be great, because I found that this is the first time that I only asked Luis for it 8 minutes before the meeting. I just got it just because I wanted to have, since I was receiving the agenda and wanted to make sure I understood what the summary was comprised of, where the work product that it was coming from. So Luis, if we could make that a regular thing, I know that would be helpful for me.
Sure, I could definitely go ahead and look into that.
Kind of along those lines, it is, we've gotten police reports in very different formats over the last few years, ranging from like police officers showing up at meeting to nothing to now like a pretty detailed report. And it's hard to gauge, like, is there more stuff going on because we're getting more details, or are we just getting more details now? Because this sounds like a whole lot more than we've ever heard about.
Well, we talked last meeting about I don't remember exactly what our final discussion, where it landed, but that kind of an informal ad hoc I would take on engaging with Luis and the chief, and we would discuss, where we're at and what we really need to do to make sure that the parks are safe and the kids aren't getting into trouble unsupervised. And so this was my first month at kind of taking a stab at getting an update on what's actually happening, not just a generic, things are good, because that seems like what we've been receiving is that everything is fine and that there's no real major issues in our city parks, and that's really not what's happening. So maybe we can have on the agenda for next month to develop some type of format that works for the chief or his officers. We actually did discuss going back in person, because I personally liked having the deputies come so that we could have it agendized and have like an open discussion about, just making sure we know what's really going on. So I'm hoping after June 15th, we can have more discussion about having in-person meetings in July.
I have a question on the report. You mentioned a child being chased.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, assaulted was the word.
There was sure. So just for clarification, there's two different instances. There was a 13-year-old who was battered by two other individuals, and then there was an additional call to that of a child being chased by an individual. And I think that that's the one that Commissioner Firestone's the one that's referring to.
Yes. Any more details than that?
No, unfortunately, I don't have any additional details. I know that deputies were able to make contact with the subject. They did do an investigation, and from my understanding, a crime could not be established.
I think that there was a late report, if I remember correctly. I don't have it here. I was trying to find it, but I already closed out that email. But Louise, can you make sure that you forward that to them so they have the details?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions on the police report? And I agree, Ryan. I think that having a more uniform format, maybe we can develop like a form that he can fill out, or that the chief can send to the details and Louise can fill it out. And then we can kind of start some historical data for this commission to have. So a year from now, we won't be wondering if our calls for service are, up or down. At least we can get a little bit of a baseline as to where we're at. And do we have a public works report?
We do. So Public Works noted that recent events held at Libby Park include Art in the Park, which was held on May 29th and May 30th. Additionally, the Ventura County Potters Guild will be held on June 12th and June 13th. They also noted that the turf hill is scheduled to be replaced mid-June. In that, from my understanding, they're going to be reshaping the top of the hill to decrease the angles, which will help improve the durability of the turf. And over at Club Vista Park, the Ojai Land Conservancy, they held a volunteer day on May 29th, where they went through and the volunteers helped do some weed eating over at Club Vista. Additionally, on June 5th, the Ojai Valley Green Coalition is going to be running an 8-week program called Relative with Roots. The program is designed to encourage children ages from 8 to 11 to learn how to draw and paint through the observation of the natural world. And that was the report from Public Works.
Thank you. And a city council liaison report?
Yes, thank you. I have just a few things I'll go through the checklist on. Number one, with respect to the serial vandalism, I can only express an opinion, but I have expressed support by my opinion that we should be diligent of invoicing or requiring, and whatever the appropriate method is, restitution for these parents of the children engaging in vandalism. They should be, I think, held financially responsible, and I've been supportive of that kind of action and urging that it be done. Number two, I brought up the issue with the, it's exciting that looks like we're going to actually get going on the multi-purpose project as we come out of this. Our cash flow is recovering, and I have pointed out that for years there's been the adjacent issue of the dumpster enclosure blocking ingress and egress, which is only going to increase its demand. For some reason, it wasn't on the CIP program that was presented to council. City manager expressed to me he remembered that discussion and was somewhat perplexed about that as well. I think that's going to go back in and be seriously looked at as being inclusive of the project when the multi-purpose project gets going. So I think that's important to do that. And number three, I also expressed during the budget review that we put into the long-term CIP plan the some sort of restroom facility for the community garden behind City Hall. If we're going to be upgrading programming there, that is part of our Libby Park master plan, and we ought to be starting to think about having something other than a porta potty on a trailer for that situation. And also that we ought to be starting to seriously think about deploying not just chargers for cars, but chargers for e-bikes. We talk about encouraging people to use e-bikes. I know I've talked to people that think more and more about, we were talking about that earlier, about coming up from Ventura as opposed to bringing a car. But it'd be nice to, somebody can come up, they could, while they're here, stop, they have a place to plug their B-bike in and charge it, make sure they're fine going further or whatever. So I just think that that's something to think about if we're talking about alternative to automobiles. I also am continuing to push, and the county has been extremely, I think, unexpectedly slow to respond to our inquiry as to what the receipts are for Sewell Park at the Boardman entrance. We've been asking for that for, Luis, how long now? 3 months?
Yes. Yeah, just about 3 months.
And no response from county. I don't know whether they don't collect that information, which is hard to believe, or they don't want us to know. It's a matter of government public record. But I continue to sort of agitate behind the scenes for that, because we need to know, I think we really need to know what that number is in case we want to look at an arrangement to propose with county to indemnify the county, where we basically say, we'll give you this much money for sure, but we're going to take down the gate entry and we're going to start doing programming inside the Boardman entrance that relates to the dog park issue and everything. So I don't know why the county has been so slow on that, but it has.
Have you considered doing a public records request as an individual, just to get it on the books that the clock
Luis,
is?
what do you think of that?
I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm happy to go ahead and follow up with the county, see if we could get some additional information, maybe put a little bit of pressure behind our initial request. Hopefully we have a little bit more information for the following meeting. I think that would be the appropriate thing to do, is just, send a reminder. And if we don't get any results from there, then probably proceed with a request.
Maybe indicate that we've got to arouse commission members that want to know, not just the council person.
I just say it starts the clock. It's a matter of law that they respond. And the district attorney takes that very seriously if they're not providing the public with that transparency.
Yeah. I'm happy to go ahead and send a follow up. Just a reminder. Hey, we submitted this request. Just wanted to see if we can get an update or some figures on it so we can report back.
Yeah. Another thing, I've floated a trial balloon just to start thinking about it, and that is that it's an odd circumstance that the city is not responsible for a large part of most of the Valley Trail. It's inside city limits. The county is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And whether or not we should try to, again, talk to the county. Well, okay, why don't you contract with the city to provide this instead of you doing it? Relieve you of that responsibility, and the city would be a little more vigilant and dedicated to maintaining the condition of the trail inside the city limits from Fox to the Y. So I floated that trial balloon. I have 3 dogs, but they're not with me. But I did see, I didn't realize Sage was such a cat person. I saw that the cat is being accommodated up on the top shelf there earlier.
I didn't anticipate UPS showing up at this time.
No, and the last thing I wanted to bring up was that I have brought up the issue at the last council meeting. I was thinking about Parks and Rec, and that we do have an adopted master plan for streets that are designated multimodal for specific bike paths. We adopted that in 2017. That was actually, master plan was actually implemented as part of our general plan, our existing general plan. And I feel like anytime we're doing a street overlay project that includes a component that's in that master plan, that the design ought to include consistency with bike paths that were as so designated in that master plan. So right now we have Kiyama, and I know that that's kind of a third rail political issue, but nevertheless, we did adopt a master plan for Kiyama to be considered a modal bike route through the Arbolada. We have plenty of right-of-way through there. And if we're going to be doing part of Kiyama, I think that we ought to be looking at at being consistent with that master plan. And of course, that involves, property owners that are using right-of-way as if it's public property, if it's private property. But are we going to be serious about our master plans or not? I'm sort of, stirring the pot on that issue. So
If that's something this commission can help support, I mean, I think that I drive that route every day. I have a child at OVS and one at Matilaha, and I live off of Rice Road. So regularly I'm reminded of that specific corridor, and then, you know, from the cemetery to Matilaha. And I'm aware of the easement that we have, and I say to myself regularly, why are we not putting in more effort to put a bike lane through that corridor? It makes I don't think the students at Matilaha, you know, and a lot of them are actually riding e-bikes, you know, I see them riding e-bikes both to OVS and to Matilaha. They are not traveling the corridor in front of Nordhoff.
Right.
They go straight up Kuyama, and it is quite dangerous. And I don't let my kids ride their bikes, but if there was a passage there, that would make it a game changer for me.
Louise, I was wondering if maybe you could circulate the master plan to members of the Park and Rec Commission. They could see what I'm talking about if they don't have that in their archives already. Would that be
absolutely? Yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and do that along with the police report.
And maybe we can add that to our future possible agenda items as a revisiting the master plan and an update, and someone can come through and run us through all of it.
And then when we get to the specific, bidding out those projects or going ahead with the design for these projects that have the overlap that I'm certainly going to be asking council to look at that and make sure the design includes that functionality. So anyway, that's it. And I'm really happy that Luis agreed to come over and help with the big, the pent up demand that's about to hit us of the relaunch of park and recreation programs, this summer. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. See, we have the next item, number 7. Well, any other questions or discussions for the city council liaison? Nope. Okay, moving on to number 7, consent items, minutes of the May 6, 2021 meeting. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes?
I thought the minutes looked very good. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 6, 2021 meeting.
I'll second that.
Perfect. With that, we'll go ahead and do a roll call. Commissioner Firestone?
Yes.
Commissioner Ittner?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Taylor?
Yes.
Perfect. Motion passes.
Okay, great. Moving on to number 8, presentations, actions, and discussion items. Number A, election of officers.
Well, Susie, if you're willing, I will nominate you now and we can make you chair.
I had this funny feeling that that was going to happen. I'm happy to sit, provided we have a timely election. And is that Luis scheduled for the January meeting? Is that right?
You mean a year from today?
No, I think we specifically discussed that it would be a short term. It would be a prorated term of just January of 2022. But
yes, traditionally election of officers, they do happen on a yearly basis, which traditionally happens in January. And if the commission wishes to revisit that at that point, we can definitely do that.
Oh, it'll be on the agenda. Shall we take a roll call?
I will nominate Susie to be the chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Okay, perfect. So with that, we'll do a roll call. So Commissioner Ittner.
Aye.
Commissioner Firestone.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Taylor.
Aye.
Okay. So with that, we'll, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So we'll move on to electing a vice chair.
Correct. Yes. Sorry.
Okay. And so since Sage was so kind to nominate me as chair, I would like to nominate her as vice chair.
That's fine.
Will that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. So
can we take a roll call before she changes her mind on that?
Absolutely. So I'm sorry. Vice Chair Ittner.
Aye.
So Chair Taylor.
Aye.
And Commissioner Firestone.
Aye.
Perfect. Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, those are the 2 officers that we need to nominate, correct?
Correct. Yes.
There's not many left. Would you like a position, Ryan? Is there anything we can make you just to make sure that you're engaged?
You want to be secretary?
Whatever you want, you just say. Okay, moving on to item B, subject Sheriff's Office communication efforts update. That the commission receive an update on communication efforts between the Sheriff's Office regarding safety concerns at the skate park in Libby Bowl and provide feedback. And I believe we have Luis, we have an actual report on that, right?
Correct. Yes. So in your packet, you'll see a report on the communication efforts with the police department. And if I may, I'm happy to go ahead and just do a brief update on that report.
Please.
Absolutely. So staff reached out to Police Chief Ojai Rivera to discuss the concerns raised by the commission during the last meeting, as well as to brainstorm ideas to help mitigate those issues. During that conversation, Police Chief Rivera noted that the department had been conducting additional walkthroughs of the locations, as well as doing spot checks of the cameras when possible. He did note that overall in the month of May, calls for service were down at those locations. In addition to, additionally, the camera spot checks, they did lead to an arrest for drinking in public, as well as graffiti at the skate park. When speaking with the chief on how to mitigate the issues that were raised during the last commission meeting, we spoke about using the volunteers and police, the VIP. Those are volunteers that perform duties that are not traditional duties performed by sworn officers. So some of the things that they do is they do report writing, observation and reporting procedures that are also CPR and first aid certified. So we thought that those individuals would be a good resource to go ahead and utilize to help mitigate these concerns. Now, Chief Rivera did note that due to the current pandemic, the Sheriff's Office is not utilizing these members at this time. However, the department is open to exploring this resource once the Sheriff's Office starts using them once again. Now, as the commission may know, just yesterday, the county moved into the yellow tier. Now, I can't speak on behalf of the Sheriff's Office, but if I were to share my estimation, I anticipate that the Sheriff's Office may be starting to utilize these members here in the near future, sooner than later. But again, that's just my observation. And again, I can't speak on behalf of the Sheriff's Office. So I think that that's going to be a good resource to go ahead and use once they do become available, because I think that they will be able to go ahead and conduct these tasks that were discussed during the last meeting.
Great.
I have a question. I read the report and the report was good, and I think there's some great things to discuss in here. But what was clearly missing, which was in our minutes, was specifically the ask about having officers do their reports in their downtime work and parking in that parking lot. And I didn't see a reference to that. So I don't know if the discussion didn't happen or it just didn't make it into our report.
You know, my apologies. It did not happen. That slipped my mind. So I will make sure to go ahead and follow up with Chief and to see if that's something that the deputies can go ahead and do. I know that they too are a little bit short-staffed at this time, and that's partly due to pandemic. But that's something definitely we can go ahead and explore, and I can go ahead and do a follow-up at the next meeting in reference to my findings.
And when that discussion happens, I think it's going to be important to reference the fact that this has historically been done. This is not a new idea or a new way of handling some of these issues. We have done this over time at different periods in the city of Ojai. And I understand that as we change chiefs and it's a very rotational situation at the police department. But I just want to make sure that when we present it, we're presenting it in that framework and not as, what do you think maybe we could? Because we have done it. And I want to make sure that they're aware that it's not a new idea.
Sure, absolutely. And yeah, and so in my initial discussion with them, we were talking about things that had happened in the past and, what worked. And that's where the VIP volunteers and policing came up. And it's something that we had, I think that the commission had initially explored. But again, due to the pandemic, that's the reason why the department isn't using them. But absolutely, when I follow up with them, I could definitely go ahead and pitch it in the manner that you just explained.
Okay.
More of an encouragement that if the leadership encouragement on his part would go a long ways to help on their downtime. He talks a little bit in the report about like them doing their other required duties. And I'm not sure if report writing has changed over the years. A lot of them used to sit in their car and do it on their laptops, and I'm not sure if they're doing it verbally now and it's being translated. I don't really know.
I don't either.
I mean, they all I drive by regularly. I know that a couple of them sit at the ranch house parking lot, during times when the kids are going to and from school. So I think that just bringing those conversations to the chief and having him know that, we know of these issues, he seemed really receptive. So I would think that
that's great.
Them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel the same way. I feel like he is very receptive. And again, I take full responsibility to just slip my mind on that. So I'll make sure to
follow up too. That was on my list too. Sorry, Sage, because I talked to him earlier too, and I just didn't. I totally forgot about it.
And the only other piece of that is possibly an incentivization of good behavior. We've done that historically with officers having the ability to give gift certificates and things that we've collected throughout the community to kids that they see exemplifying good behavior.
Okay,
like a cop being good.
Well, it is exactly what it was. And they gave out tickets for various different things in town, just small stuff that we were able to get the community. Well, I mean, we could figure out some way to, if they're open to that, I think that's if you're sitting there, it allows you to have an opportunity to interact in a different way than just an enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Item C. It's kind of, we kind of already discussed that. Yeah, skate park and Libby Park safety concerns, the park ambassador program recommendations. The commission will continue discussing concerns. So do you guys have anything further that you want to talk about? We've sort of covered that.
I like the volunteers and policing idea. I think that is an excellent solution to the ambassador idea because they are ready to do light enforcement. They're prepped for that. They're trained for that. I feel really comfortable with that interaction because my concerns with the ambassador programs is putting people in situations that are enforcement related or will end up being enforcement related. And I don't feel like that's a positive interaction for the ambassadors or particularly safe because they don't, that's not what they're prepped to do. So I really like the volunteers and policing idea as more eyes on the park. The other thing I did after our meeting went on to the Ventura County Sheriff's webpage for the Ojai Police Station, and also to the city, who also has an Ojai Police page on their website. And I don't know if it's an appropriate way to use it, but I would like to really encourage parents or youth who see things that aren't happening or that are happening at these places that aren't going well to feel comfortable to use the We Tip crime line. Because it's an 800 number. It's absolutely anonymous. They will never ask you for your information. They don't collect any information. They don't collect your phone number, nothing like that. And so I think it's the responsibility of those there are going to be the quickest to see and mark when we need to make changes at this. I'm thinking particularly at the skate park, because I do feel for the parents who are feeling uncomfortable with younger kids and some of these behaviors. It would be great to be able to change that. And I think the fastest way to do it is the people who are the eyes on taking the time to do this reporting. And it's totally anonymous.
I wonder, do we have a lot of times like Fish and Game has stickers, the advertises the 800 number, like to call for poaching or whatever. I wonder if the Sheriff's Department has some, poster or a sticker that we can put at the informational board that might be a good way to get that information out. I know
it's a good idea.
Just to have it handy because, maybe if a parent is at the skate park and observes it and sees the flyer really handy, that might encourage them to use it.
Yeah. And I wouldn't mind if we were publicizing that and also our local police station number. Because I have called the police station when I have had things that concerned me that were not a 911 call, but I needed someone there to know what was happening.
Okay.
And they have a phone number. So it's also
We
on
used to
the,
have that all over the place. I guess they also used to dispatch at, the Ojai substation when a call would come into, the 1414 number, and that's all handled now down in Ventura. So that might be why they don't advertise that number as often. I mean, it is staffed Monday through Friday,
Right.
whatever it is, 8 to 5 or something. But I think that's great. I think and I know it rolls over to the dispatch center in Ventura when they are closed, like
Right.
on weekends or after hours. So I agreed. Luis, do you know offhand if we have a bulletin board of some side, maybe on the side of the bathroom? Is there
I
something
don't think we
there?
do. I think it would be more if
No.
we were redoing signage, something we would add to it. But
Mhm.
I will just say that the hotline is 1-800-78-CRIME. So that one's going to be, a little bit easier.
Okay.
And the local police is 805-646-1414 for anyone who's listening and interested in, it has issues either at any facility that's a parks facility or a city facility. If you have something you're concerned with, definitely, I think it's in the best interest of everyone to report it.
I agree. Thank you.
So that was my 2 cents on that one. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, Ryan, anything else? Or Mr. Wyrick? No?
No.
Okay, informational items. Receive reports. Is that verbal reports?
Yeah,
No?
so that's
okay.
yeah, so that's going to be a verbal report for the recreation department.
Okay.
So here, I would like to go ahead and note that the city is coordinating with the County of Ventura to extend COVID testing through the end of June. COVID testing will continue to be available on Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to 3:30. As previously noted, COVID testing location was at Zero Zodi Park. We are looking to explore a new location, and that's going to be over at the Farmers Market parking lot. So it's going to be a small little kiosk that we're going to be doing there. Additional information about testing can be found on the city's website by visiting ojaica.gov. Additionally, starting on June 15th, technically June 16th is going to be our first meeting, but the city will begin to host meetings once again in the council chambers. Commissioners who wish to continue meeting via Zoom will have the option to do so until further notice. On the topic of COVID, the County of Ventura has noted that COVID vaccines are available by walk-in appointments, are available by walk-ins. Appointments are not required. Those who may be interested can make appointments at myturn.ca.gov or by calling 833-422-4255. In reference to programming for the park. So we are going to be starting our new dog training classes this Saturday. The offering includes both a basic and advanced training session. The advanced training session will focus more on rally training. In addition to that, on June 5th, we will have our first ghost tour. The ghost tour will be led by Richard Sennett and is scheduled to begin at 8 p.m. That is going to be the first of 2. The second one will be on June 19th, and that tour will take participants through downtown and over at Libby Park. I think that's a pretty neat offering.
What was the first date?
So the first date is June 5th, so it's going to be this Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this Saturday.
Is that already sold out?
That is sold out.
Is the 19th sold out also, I assume, right?
Not to my understanding, we do have limited spaces. The last time I checked, we had limited spaces available. Now we do have some online Zoom classes, and that since it's online, going to be Zoom. It's going to be more a ghost story focused, but we can definitely accommodate more people via Zoom than in person. One of the things that we wanted to go ahead and do in person is just make sure that we limit the size to help keep everybody safe for the time being there. And then on June 14th, we'll begin our summer camps. Summer camps include soccer, surf, Lego, and dance. Now, to my last time I checked, most of the camps have been sold out. We do have limited spacing on soccer and dance, if I'm not mistaken. So it seems like as soon as we have classes that come up, they tend to fill up. So that's really neat to see. And we do have, in addition to this, we have made contact with the Ojai Music Festival. We're looking into setting up some new classes, some new offerings, and that's going to be through music and storytelling. So we're currently in the works for that, and we'll have additional information at the next commission meeting on that there. In reference to our outdoor rentals continue to be strong. We currently have 7 outdoor fitness space rentals, which include 3 yoga, 1 kung fu, 1 taekwondo, and 1 creative movement class. And the last one is going to be a youth soccer skills and drills program.
Luis, have we, where are we at with I know the state is moving to the June 15th that we had just talked about earlier, but where are we at with the local, have we canceled the local emergency, or is that still in place?
So that is still in place. Correct. So that is still in place. From my understanding, it's going to be in place. Majority of the ordinances are going to be in place through June 15th. And then after that, there is going to be only a limited ordinance that are going to remain in effect. And I apologize. I had a blank in my mind and I can't remember exactly which ones, but most of them are going to be lifted. Some of them that are going to stay, that are going to go ahead and continue, are an example like the executive order for outdoor rental spaces. We haven't had any, there hasn't been any concerns or issues reported with that. And we've had some, great positive feedback for those that are renting the outdoor spaces. So that's something that we are going to go ahead and continue with there.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. You're going to continue renting for sports and activities as outdoor spaces?
That is correct. Okay. Yes.
I had a question about being able. Go ahead.
Is that lift? You're saying that emergency order will be lifted or canceled?
No. That will remain in place. That's one of the ones that will remain in place. And my apologies. Yeah, I don't have all the exact ones right at this moment that are going to be lifted. I'm sorry, Councilmember Wright, go ahead.
If I may, Chair.
Yes, please.
Louise, I think formally what the emergency order is ending, but we're extending the authorization outside of the emergency order to have the outdoor classes for a while.
Okay.
Yes.
Based on demand and general desire to support that activity. So technically that's what's going on. The tiers go away June 15th and a lot of the emergency authorization. So we're basically moving it to another authorization.
Okay. So we're continuing to authorize the use of those particular spaces for what we've been using. And that's great for those who want to continue to do that. One of my questions when were we looking to rent spaces for outdoor activities for rentals? Will that resume? Will we allow people to start booking facilities June 16th?
Oh, my apologies. We're going to start. Yeah, we're going to start looking into that. One of the things that we are going to be looking into is seeing how we can go ahead and not only utilize outdoor spaces, but also indoor spaces as well. That's something that we're going to be heavily looking into here in the next couple of weeks here.
But we will be, by state rules, we'll be able to rent outdoor spaces as of the 16th. That would be fine.
Correct.
And so I would just like to propose that we hurry along the city to get there, because we're still encouraging people to do as much outdoors as possible. And I would like to have those facilities available as soon as possible for people to do gatherings outside. And as that discussion comes forward, because I just think it would be great to be able to use the parks again for group activities, because it's still, there's still an advantage to be outdoors.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess, are you ready to go on June 16th as far as renting out the picnic spaces? Is that kind of your question, Steve?
That's my question. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that we're definitely going to be looking into. If we can definitely go ahead and do it, we're going to make sure that happens as soon as possible.
Okay.
Do we have the staff back up to where we need to? I know we were really limited. How are we doing on?
Not quite. Not quite yet. We still do have a limited amount of staff. We have reached out to our part-time staff members to see if they would be available to go ahead and come back to join us. We do currently have 3 full-time staff members, and one would be myself, the second would be Vicky, and the third would be Megan. And we're also going to be looking to bring back 2 part-time staff members. So hopefully as we do that, we can go ahead and have more programs and services available for rentals.
Great. Okay, any other questions for Louise?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that report.
Mhm.
Any commissioner reports or comments? Additional on number 10?
Just to say that I haven't done anything on the grants commission, but I would like to ask Luis if you could maybe orient Sage and I, because I think we're both willing to help, but don't really know what to do.
Yes, absolutely.
So, any you could give us, or say, look here, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be more than happy to. And what I'll go ahead and do after the meeting is we'll go ahead and reach out to coordinate a time that works best for everybody, so we can go ahead and explore that. And I apologize. I haven't been in the office the last couple of weeks. My wife and I had a new baby, and so I've been off, and so I haven't been. Thank you. I haven't been able to do as much as I wanted to this last month, so I apologize. But I will be back in the office starting on Monday, and we could definitely schedule time to explore those grant opportunities.
Louise, what are the vitals? What are the vitals with their baby? Name, birth weight,
Yeah, absolutely. So baby Liliana was, she weighed 7 pounds, 11 ounces, as most babies do, the day after she did lose a little bit of weight. And it was funny because we had a follow-up appointment a week later. And so she went from 7'11" at birth weight. She dropped down to 7'2", and then a week later she was at 8'6".
Wow, that's great. Nice healthy baby.
Yeah, so she's doing well. It was funny because after this, I won't go too much in detail, but when she was born, everybody was asking, "How are you sleeping?" And I'm like, it was great. The first couple of days, it was great. She was sleeping great, and then after that, it seemed like everything just turned, took a 180, and she's up most of the night.
She likes to sleep during the day and be awake all night.
Nothing like the exhaustion of new parents. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think that we discussed at some point on the grants that there should be, or someone should have memberships to search. The city normally would have membership platforms that you have to belong to actually search a lot of the grants, whether they're through the state or federal grants. And I think we might have talked to James Vega about that, and he seemed to think that we had something resources wise that the commissioners could have access to.
Yeah, I believe that is the case. Memory, I wish I had the names of those organizations, but I do believe that there are some that the commissioners will be able to have access to, so that way we can explore the different grants that are out there, and then be able to come back and recommend which the city should explore.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so for future agenda items, I have the dog park discussion item. Can we add the bike path through Cuyama and the Arbolada, or maybe we title it master plan paving / bike path design. I don't know where we're at, but I think that is a great idea. And if this commission can help, I would be happy to help support that with a recommendation that's within our purview to do. I think that's an optimal time to put in, if we're going to be paving the streets anyway. So I think that'll be a great discussion item.
I think it's certainly within your purview. Yeah.
If we're asking for prioritization for me, I would be interested in talking about that if next month, if it's possible.
That'd be great.
And I think we had a discussion of possibly formalizing what we're looking for from the police report as an agenda item, so that we can have a discussion and possibly discuss what we think would be helpful.
Maybe during this before we post the agenda, I can get with him and ask him what type of form would work for him, whether it's like a fill in the blank PDF type fillable type form, or if he wants to, if it's easier for him to do an email and have staff fill it in.
I'm happy to have the discussion at the next meeting too, just because I think part of it is not just is part of its format, but also part of it's what we are interested in knowing.
Oh, the content.
Before we get to the form.
Luis, and I'm happy to do this if I know you are backlogged, I'm sure. Either one, maybe even an email. Can we see if he's available for our next Park and Rec Commission? When I spoke with him earlier, he kind of seemed like, well, if you have a meeting, I'm happy to come to it, and I had kind of shared that when we were meeting in person, that Jason was pretty good about coming, but definitely I feel like that towards just pre-COVID, the attendance really diminished, and he was really more focused on the home. I think the homeless shelter dinner night, if I recall correctly, conflicted with our in-person meeting, and I'm not sure if that's something that the chief goes to or not, but I think this next meeting would be a good one to have him at if he can make himself available, even if he can only come maybe through Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could definitely go ahead and poll to figure out his availability.
Okay.
Definitely encourage if he is available to attend the next meeting.
Okay. Any other?
Yeah, sorry. This is adjacent to the dog park discussion. Would be something about enforcement of dogs off leash in our current parks.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a big issue.
Sometimes I wonder who doesn't have a dog in Ojai.
Off a leash or on a leash?
Of all kinds, off or on. I mean, my goodness.
There's a lot of dogs, that's for sure. For sure. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, any other?
And sometimes there's a lot of dogs off leash at the park, which is sometimes an issue.
Yeah.
It was interesting that there was a report as one of our reports to the police department on that too. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any other discussions? Do we want to have something on there about the multi-sports court, maybe where we're at? That's probably going to have some movement, I'm guessing, in the next month.
Maybe
correct. Correct. So yes. So one of the things I can go ahead and know, and it's from Greg's report during the last month's meeting, is that if I'm not mistaken, and if memory serves me right, construction for the multi-purpose sports courts is scheduled to begin fall of this year. I think it was around October, November of this year.
November.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So just in a couple of months, we'll begin construction with that
And
area.
specifically on that project, we had questions about lighting, costs, and I think he was going to work up some numbers and look into details on that. That would be great to have come back next month.
Okay.
Luis, do you circulate it sounds like a good idea to circulate the design package, to this group, just to, have a little, have feedback,
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't hurt, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And Councilman Wright, where are we at on the rotation of council members? Will you be at next month's meeting? Or
I'm in June. We switch at the end of June.
Okay.
So, but I'm still interested. I can always come. I come in when I'm interested. So I probably will still come on the issue of the bike path master plan, because I have a real interest in that.
I think sometimes it's nice to have the continuity. I mean, I know it's nice to spread it out, but it does seem that when we have a topic, it loses its momentum once we kind of change. And I hope that we're able to meet in person. I think that and I don't know how that's going to work with the public being able to come or not, but I just think it's the environment is important to be able to be in chambers and do the work and have all the resources there. It just makes it feel like we're actually getting something accomplished.
I agree. And Louise, if you could help me remember, just as an interested party, to come to the next meeting.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Council member, I appreciate that.
Yep.
Would you, just a small request on our agenda, would you list, I think you might have actually, I'm sorry, who's coming? We've asked for this before and it comes and it goes. Which council member is slated to be on the agenda?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to go ahead and
so that we have it on the agenda.
Yeah. So you actually want it on the agenda. One of the things that I could
Yeah.
go ahead and do is, once I send out the, oh, actually, yeah, that will be easy. That,
Like
yeah,
on
that will be
number-
Because
very
you already
easy.
have
saying
city
on
council
number
liaison
6.
report and then just note who
Yeah.
is,
Parentheses or something.
that'd be really helpful.
Will do.
Oh, you know what? One more issue, one more question I had. Actually, it goes back to the e-bike chargers that you had discussed during your report. Years ago, I had driven up. I have a little golf cart, a gem that I was driving to and from City Hall, and I plugged it in one day, and because there was a 110 charging station there, and when I came out, it had not been charged all. And I followed the cord around, and I noticed the entire box had been, the actual plug-in is there, but the electrical connection, the meter, if you will, was removed. There's still a space for it. Is that being utilized for something there?
I know that there was a transition. Are you speaking about the chargers that were directly in front of City Hall or on the side parking lot?
No, right in front of City
Okay.
Hall, right outside.
So those chargers are no longer there. So those have been removed, and I think my initial thought is just hearing what you said is that was in the transition phase where they were being moved to the other parking lot. So yeah, the ones right in front of City Hall are no longer there.
They actually took okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my only question about that. Okay, anything else?
Where do we stand on getting new commissioners?
Oh,
a great question. So I did speak with our deputy city clerk. We have started recruitment for those commissioners. If I'm not mistaken, I think we have received an application, but I will go ahead and verify. So it's scheduling the interviews. So we do hope to definitely fill these voids here in the near future. Don't hold me to that. We do have an applicant. It's something that's in my mind. For some reason, I do want to say that we do have an applicant, but I'll definitely confirm and follow up there.
I think she was also working on the youth, and I think she had at least one applicant, possibly two.
Yeah,
So
that is correct.
great. Well, do we need to? Will one of the commission sit in on those interviews, or is that just staff?
So that's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go.
Sure. So that's if I'm not mistaken, 2 council members and the chair, I believe traditionally are the ones that sit in the interviews for those commissioners.
Okay. Yeah, just let me know. Hopefully it'll be after June 15th, so we can do it in person. That'd be really nice. I like to see people and see their faces. Okay, all right. Well, this unless there's any other questions or comments, we will conclude the June 3rd, 2021 Parks and Rec Commission meeting at straight up 7:00. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, you guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.